satellites. A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.
All right, welcome to Satellite Haiku. I'm Milo.
I'm Sean.
Yeah, catch me up.
What's up, my brother?
You were gone to the mountains?
Yeah, it was my kid's spring break. So my son was in DC.
Yeah.
It was like a class trip.
That's fun.
Like 20 of his classmates, I think, went. And my daughter she and I just went up to the mountains, had some fun.
Good. That's fun.
Did some time outdoors. It snowed up there, actually. They had a really warm winter, but then we had like a snowstorm right at the end of our time there last week.
I was about to ask because a friend of mine, well, not a friend, an acquaintance that I know in Tucson who is in the film community, he's an expert in tiny, like mid-sized trains. Like if you're shooting a Western and you need like a train going through, so he has these ones that are like 3 feet high.
Not like model trains, but actual trains.
They're like a meter high, but it's like a mini train, like a mini steam train.
So they are model trains. They're miniature trains. They're not.
Yeah, but they're not like miniature. They're like
yeah.
big miniature trains. Yeah. So he rents them out, sells that, rents out.
For like film shoots and stuff?
Yeah, like he's done a lot, not recently, but anyway, so he was telling me he used to be a train conductor, I guess, like not a conductor, but like a driver, a train pilot. I don't know what is a person who drives a train?
We always said the conductor.
Isn't the conductor the person that takes the tickets and like
gets the tickets? I think you're right, but like I don't know.
It's a good question,
was
right?
An engineer.
Yeah, and maybe he's an engineer. Yeah, because there was like the coal person. Anyway, he was telling us about going through. They used to go through Truckee, through what's the pass where everyone ate each other?
Donner Pass.
Pass, yeah. It's sad that that's how people remember it, but like it's certainly the Donner Pass. But he was talking about going through the Donner Pass in the middle of winter in the train. And like the snow was higher than the train. So like in some ways they had this device that made like a tunnel through the snow.
Yeah. Well, like I don't know, 2 winters ago, we had like, at one point, there was a more than 20-foot base of snow. And when the Donner Party was stuck there was 24 feet of snow that they were stuck, like accumulated snow. It had snowed something like 38 feet or something, but they think when I sat on like the film strip, at the memorial or the state park. It's like a state park. And, it's pretty interesting, actually, the whole story. But I think they had something like 30 feet of snow or 35 feet of snow, but they had like more than 20 feet of accumulated snow. So you can imagine, like, it's completely unpassable with horses and wagons, right? Like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
They just stopped. They're like, oh, it's a big snowstorm. We can't get through it. Like 8 feet of snow fell. And then they said, well, once the snow passes, we'll try to make our way. But then they got another storm, and pretty soon it was like 25 feet of snow. So they knew they were stuck there for the whole winter. There was just no question. Yeah.
And like today, you can just, they clear the highway. Like basically you could drive up there whenever you want, even after a snowstorm.
Yeah, I mean the freeway, Interstate 80 goes through the pass, yeah.
Wow. Is it ever closed? Like does it in the middle of a storm?
Yeah, I mean they close it during bad snowstorms, yeah. It'll be closed for an hour here or a couple hours there. Yeah, I've gotten stuck there when it's been closed. Like we got stuck one time driving up there, and we were maddeningly close to our exit. Like our exit was about a mile ahead of us, or maybe a slightly more than a mile, and they closed the road, and so we were stuck in this long line of just traffic on the freeway while they were clearing things. And sometimes there's accidents in the snow that close it. Sometimes it's just they decide preemptively it's too dangerous and they close it, till they can clear it. They need space to clear it. They need their big vehicles, right? And so, it was just like, and we were there for 9 hours. Like the trip to our place took 9 hours that time.
Wow.
We weren't stuck in that spot for 9 hours, but we were stuck in that spot for something like 6 hours.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And
right, like a mile from our exit, and you just you can't do anything. You're on a freeway. There's no way to get off except from the exits, and
Did the
you're
kids
stuck
have
behind.
to jump out and pee in the snow? Like, what did they do for 6 hours?
Yeah, I mean, if you have to pee, you just go out of your car and pee. And
How cold?
I think
How
we got
cold
to
was
our
it?
place. We got to the place. It wasn't our place. It was before we had it. We got to the place we were staying at 3:30 in the morning or something like that.
Oh, wow.
And there was somebody parked in our driveway, so I couldn't even pull into the driveway because I found out later they were in the house across the street, but their driveway was impassable. So they just parked in ours thinking, oh, nobody's there.
Right.
So I couldn't get into our driveway, and then I had to shovel. So I'm shoveling snow at 3 a.m. Oh man.
Wow.
The whole thing was rough. Yeah.
Wow. And are we talking like sub-zero, like Arctic temperatures?
Not really, no. I mean, up in Truckee, it gets down. I mean, it does get into the night. Sometimes it'll get down to single digits.
Oh, wow. Oh, so, okay.
And then, but a lot of times on snowy days, it'll be in the 20s,
Yeah, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
The coldest I've ever been was in the Adirondacks in the middle of winter. And they're like so used to that amount of snow that there's a digger that the town comes and just clears your driveway, but they carve like there's like a 9-foot wall of snow to your door.
Yeah,
like there's like
exactly.
you're inside of this like huge.
That is 2 winters ago. Like people were digging tunnels to their front doors, like through their driveway and stuff. Like you could see these man-made caves basically that people were digging.
Wow. And the coldest it ever got, I think, was I feel like it was minus 15, which I assume is 15 below 0 Fahrenheit. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Or we often say below 0, but do we mean below freezing? Because it's 32 degrees Fahrenheit is freezing.
When you're talking Fahrenheit, you usually say below 0, which is below 0 Fahrenheit, which is more than 32 degrees below freezing, right? Like we don't switch to Celsius all of a sudden when we say below 0.
So minus 15 in Fahrenheit would be like 45, 47, 43 degrees
below 0, below freezing. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Anyway, I remember that
the coldest I ever was up in the mountains in Colorado, like skiing on a ski trip. And, as the sun was going down, we skied all day, and then we were waiting for like the little shuttle to the parking lot, and we were one of the last people to leave the mountain because it was just, we're like, when are we going to come back here? And this is my wife and I, and and it was pretty incredible. Like it was already really cold at that elevation. You're above the tree line.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the temperature was, but when the sun dipped below the horizon, we're sitting there waiting for the shuttle. Like, did we miss the last shuttle? Like we were getting a little nervous because when the sun dipped below the horizon, like you could hear how cold it was, like trees snap, Actually we were above the tree line, so there weren't trees, but like the building we were standing at, you could just hear it creaking. There was just something about the snow itself that seemed different.
Yeah.
And you could feel the temperature dropping like by the minute once the sun dipped below the horizon. It was just crazy.
I remember, so when in the negative 15, I remember being struck by the sound. Like sound had this, partly it was that there was snow everywhere, but sound traveled differently.
There's something about, it must be like the density of the air or something. Like sound feels different. Yeah.
It was otherworldly, and it almost felt like you were on like a movie set, like like a fake.
And snow itself will do that. It dampens the sound. So like those two things combined, like I don't know if it was really snowy where you were, but
really snowy. It was really snowy.
Yeah. Because snow itself is like being in a recording studio with like the foam walls, right?
Totally.
You get this total sound dampening effect, which I love. Like that.
Yeah.
Remember how peaceful it was when you'd wake up, on a snowy morning after it snowed all night, and you go outside, and it was just like there was a certain kind of silence that was so rare.
Yeah, especially since cars weren't on the road, and it was like New York. Remember New York?
Oh yeah,
after a snowstorm.
New York after a snowstorm was just
pretty.
There's something beautiful about it. Yeah, like so quiet, just uniquely quiet after a snowstorm. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That's interesting. So Truckee, and so I haven't been up there, but it's kind of like this mythical thing because of the Donner Party. Like we always imagine it being. But it sounds like it's 8,000 feet or something. What's the height there? Do you know the altitude?
It's about 7,500 feet, I think. In Truckee itself, it's 5,000 something. Yeah, at the top of the pass, it's like 7,500, I think.
What's kind of wild for me is that I suppose
I can't remember.
because of all of the Pacific moisture that's trapped and then caught by the mountains and dumped, and that's why you have all that snow. But for instance, like Flagstaff is 7,000 feet. And you go to Flagstaff and you're like, I'm not the Donner Party. Like, it's not like, and then like 5,000 feet, like Biosphere 2 is at 5,000 feet. And it gets like a little bit of snow, like a dusting of snow once in a while, but we don't have, I guess, enough moisture. But 5,000 feet is what Denver mile high. Like it's supposed to be really high altitude for a city. But I think of like Truckee, where your house is, as being like up in the mountains, but really it's like the same altitude as like Oro Valley, Arizona.
Yeah, it's in a valley also, like surrounded by, but it's a high, it's an elevated valley.
And are you on the California side or the Reno
California side?
You are. Okay. How far is it?
Truckee's California. Yeah.
How
30 minutes to Reno driving. Yeah.
And you're across the border somewhere along there in the 30 minutes. Interesting.
Yeah. Reno's a really pretty city, actually. The whole area around there. Yeah.
I knew a guy who was an emergency room doc. I remember he got out of school with like $425,000 in debt. And I was like, does that freak you out? And he said, no, not at all, because my salary is $367. Like my starting salary as an emergency room doctor. And like they really needed someone to move there. No one really wanted to move there, I guess,
In Reno?
Yeah. And I said, well, what's sort of the downside? Why wouldn't want someone to, he goes, it's all diseases of opulence. Like some kid is riding like a 4Runner and crashes without his helmet. And he's like, I hurt my skull. And it's like, well, you were riding a 4Runner for fun. Like, it's all like, I was snowboarding and I broke my wrist. He just said it was like,
I can see that. Yeah.
For someone who was like a trauma doc, like, he was sort of like bored, because it was a disease.
I could see like I've, I think it was on the show Shrinking, there was one of the therapists, she had the similar complaint about her clients. Like she wanted to open a trauma center because she was dealing with first world problems, basically. Right.
Like, there you go. Diseases of opulence is another word for first
similar
world
to that. Like problems. As a doctor, you could sort of find I could imagine being like, you get into that profession for sort of noble reasons. And then what you're dealing with is like somebody's like tennis elbow.
Right. Yeah, totally. And just sort of, what's the word when it's like self-inflicted harm? Like,
right.
You kept, we would do stuff like we would,
burn
jump
themselves on their like golf cart.
Yeah. Or like we would hold on to like a firecracker and have it go off in our hand. And then
like that's the reckless, like farm boy energy, right? Like the Kempton style. Yeah. I was talking to, where were we? I think it was in Truckee. We just saw these like, it's an interesting mix because you get like sort of affluent California people, but there are locals, longtime locals that are a little more the Kempton sort of mentality. And there's sort of the bored country boy thing where it's just like, you remember in Kempton, it's just like, they were all really good skiers, for example, right?
Yeah.
But then in the summertime when there's no snow, they would just be like, I wonder if we could ski off the roof. Right.
Exactly.
And then they were, an hour later, they were skiing off the roof.
Yeah. I do remember because we were an hour from Kempton and I think the first time I ever went up was when one of our classmates was suspended from school for 2 weeks for some food fight or something. There was like a food,
I remember the epic food fight. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were like, hey, this woman, one of our classmates and I drove up with like a care package. Like we drove up to sort of make them feel, the idea was to make them feel ostracized by the faculty. So we thought, we'll just kind of be rebels. And I remember going up there and I remember that we hung out, like stayed overnight and like we hung out for one whole day. And then that evening, this friend was like, hey, so-and-so flipped their truck into the creek. And we were like, let's go help them. And then like all the friends kind of converged and the truck was upside down. Like the dad's truck, the farm truck was upside down in the creek. And they got a bunch of tractors and chains and flipped it over and dragged it up and then cleaned it off as best they could and like hoped that the dad wouldn't notice, like the windshield wasn't broken. Right. And I remember just thinking of that story of like, well, first of all, how did you flip your truck into the creek? Secondly, why aren't you dead? Like, why are you still
totally. And so I've once in a while, like my wife will be watching something from, movies from the 80s or whatever, where there's like high school parties, or like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, where they steal the dad's car, right? And they wreck, or they don't steal it. It shoots off the
the second
remember
story.
it shoots out of the building. It's like they have it revving there. Oh, they're trying to reverse. They did steal it, and then they're trying to reverse the odometer,
right, to take off the
indoors, and then it falls. It comes off the blocks and just like totals itself. Anyway, like Lonnie, my wife will ask me sometimes, like she'll just make a comment like about how nobody really did that stuff, and I'm like, they fully did.
Totally.
Like I've been to those high school parties, and I've been in parents' cars that were illicitly taken.
Totally.
You like that 100% happened. That's how it was. Yeah.
I used to say to my wife,
because she was very much a rule follower, and her parents were very strict and were like super worry parents, right? Like, my parents were checked out completely, involved in their own divorce, right? So it was just like, and that's the 80s movie like trope almost, like the parents that are in the middle of their own dysfunction, and so the kids are kind of like left to their own devices. That was my teenage years.
Yeah,
right?
So I'll try to
but
explain
not hers at all.
I'll try to explain it to my wife by saying, bored suburban white boys. Like bored suburban white boys getting into trouble because they just, like just thinking, what are we going to do? Let's go get in a fight.
With parents that were just completely checked out.
Totally.
Either completely checked out or just like naively trusting.
Right.
So you had two different, actually, even in those 80 movies, you had the few different parent categories. There was the parents that were completely checked out because they were in the middle of their dysfunction. There were the rich parents that were completely checked out because they were type A parents that just had busy lives.
Yeah,
and
they were too busy.
It's like the rich kid in the big house, and it was just like, the parents on a business trip, you'll be fine alone, right? Like there was like the rich sort of just checked out parents because they were type A, strivers.
Yeah.
And then there was like the naive sort of, my kid's one of the good kids' parents.
That was my parents.
They didn't know what their kids were up to. Yeah.
My parents just could, even like faced with like proof that I had done something wrong, they would just be like in denial. Like it must have been someone else's influence over him. He must have been following the crowd, like.
Well, and it's funny because that's shaped me so much, like all of that, because we turned out pretty okay, right? Like,
yeah.
And so, my wife, who was a rule follower and doesn't really, like, she overreacts, I think, to lots of, like, my daughter, she's in 5th grade. She was supposed to do the Spanish homework over the spring break, right? And it was like cutting out a little sort of like figurine and that they're going to use for some sort of like classroom performance of some kind, right? Okay. Well, sure enough, Monday night arrives. She's supposed to have this the next day, and she's like, "Where's my figurine that I'm supposed to color?" We couldn't find it anywhere. I think I tossed it in the recycling because I think I was cleaning stuff up, and I think I don't remember this precisely, but I feel like I saw it and I was like, "Oh, that's old." From some like past assignment, whatever. Like, I'm just going to get rid of it.
Clear the slate. Yeah, that's funny. That's better than my dog ate my homework. My dad put it in the recycling. Like, that's good.
Right. But like, she's, she's a little upset. And I'm like, it's like, it's 5th grade Spanish homework. Like, for a kid that gets straight A's, like, who fucking cares? Like, that's my attitude. Like, I don't, like, what's the big deal? Like, all right, it's going to be late or, whatever. We'll figure it out. Like, I just don't care that much, right? And then my wife is just panicking. Like, she's like turning the house upside down. And, she's like, let's email the teacher. Oh, Sean, can you write a note? And then like, she must have called me twice that day because she had to go out. And she must have called me twice. Like, did you figure out anything for Naomi's Spanish homework? Just like, I can barely get myself to care about it at all because it's like, it's 5th grade Spanish homework.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's one assignment in 5th grade Spanish. Like, who cares? Like, even if she got a 0, like, who cares?
It wouldn't change her life.
Like, what's the big deal? Anyway, so Yeah, my wife and I are a little different, but I think it goes back to that upbringing. Like, like stuff goes sideways. You have your transgressions, and then we came out all right.
Yeah, no, it's true. That makes me think of. So I went to. I've been. My nephew in Tucson is in 8th grade, and he's at the Waldorf
Okay.
school, and they did like a final 8th grade project, which they've worked on for months.
Okay.
He wanted to do a graphic novel. It's like 60 pages long. So,
nice.
so I was his mentor, and I like sat with him. We went over the hero's journey. We talked about character development. Like it was actually fun for me to sort of reinvestigate that stuff. And then like we did technical stuff, like how are we going to get it printed and bound, and So what was interesting was, for the first thought that I had was I watched maybe like 10 8th graders give their final report, like give their final, project, right? And I weirdly, because I have, how old is your son? Your son is
he's 8th grade.
Yeah, okay, so 8th grade. All right. So this is the thought that I had, which was my grandkids are 1 and 2 months, and watching these guys, what had occurred to me was they might have the hardest, intermediate period between whatever's coming with AI and what we had. You know what I mean? Like, because I think in like 20 years, we'll have figured it all out. But there will be like a bumpy part in the middle, and they'll be coming out of college, like right when there's, everything's automated and there's no like entry level jobs. Like, what are you going to do if you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I feel like we were a generation that came out, the economy was bad. Like the millennials also had that situation with the financial crisis.
Right.
Yeah. So like, but this next wave is really weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. And I think what makes it especially weird is that all the entry level jobs that we would apply for, like,
in office type work,
knowledge work. I was thinking of New York City and like coming out of those kind of jobs that you always assign to the intern, or then the kid comes in and the freshman, the kid comes first kid. Yeah. All of those jobs will most likely be automated, right? By I think I mean
a lot of them, a
lot of them. And so then what do those? Well, how do you? Because you remember when we would apply for a job and they'd be like, you need 3 to 5 years of experience, and you'd be like, well, I'm right out of school, so how do I get that?
It's really hard to say. Like, I mean, whether that's, I think it's just it's so hard to predict anything right now. That's really the bottom line, because I feel like the job that feels really obviously disappearing is software development, coding.
Right. Yeah.
Like there's lots of other, I was thinking about this earlier when you were talking about the guy with the model trains, right? Like CGI is going to become so easy and so good that the guy with the model trains in Truckee that rents them out for film shoots will be out of work, because it's just like,
way too
why
expensive.
Would we go to that guy? Like what he has is not quite what we're looking for, but it was good enough. Like everybody who's used him was like, it's not exactly what we need, but it's good enough. And the background, like we can green screen it, and all right, it'll be fine. The smoke coming out of that engine doesn't quite look real. Like you can sort of tell it's a miniature,
it's too thin,
right?
And
Right. So they're already enhancing it with CGI probably to get it to look exactly like they want today. And tomorrow it's just going to be like, we need a scene. We need a scene where a train kind of goes by in the background, or we need like whatever you call it, what do they call it? Establishing shot where there's a train or whatever, right? And they're just going to do that via prompt. So there's going to be like a lot of those kind of jobs will be gone. I think like, but with something like say a paralegal or something like that, like there'll be fewer of those, but I also don't feel like that would be gone necessarily, because just AI is like, I don't know. There's just like, it's really getting really, really good at coding, but you can measure, like coding has a really straightforward success criteria. Like your application works or it doesn't, right? Like it's secure or it's not. Like there are very, very straightforward metrics that you can use to figure out whether your code is good.
Okay.
Versus say like a legal brief. or let's say fiction, like writing creative writing. Like, there's not really good success criteria that you can look at and go, all right, well, that writing is good and that writing is bad. Like, there's sort of this, and it's fuzzier, a lot fuzzier, the criteria. So it's just those things become harder and harder to predict, I think. And then on the consumer side, like, it's hard to know to what extent people will just sort of demand stuff be made by humans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Like, I heard Sam Harris's Business Manager, they do these like segments, like More with Sam, where they have a conversation about like a range of topics. His name's Jaron Lowenstein or something like that, I think. And I don't know, he was talking about the Bourne movies. It's like talking about a future where like AI just cranks out Bourne movies, and it's like they're just as good as the Bourne movies of today. And like, why wouldn't everyone want that? Like, you can have, an endless supply of Bourne movies that are created in an hour, right?
Right.
And I was just thinking, like, would I want that? Like, I mean, you and I have talked about like I appreciate like the sort of like the implicit conversation that I'm having with the artist when I'm consuming art. Yeah. Like if there isn't an artist on the other end, I don't know if I think I just would feel like there's something missing. Like, even if the plot and the characters are good and the cinematography is good and all that, I don't know, there's a part of me that's just be like, I don't think I would watch it. Like, it's just missing an X factor. But then I feel like I'm probably just different. I'm not the same. Like, most people don't give a shit, probably.
Yeah. Or what's going to happen is I was halfway through the Formula One movie.
Yeah.
And I turned to my wife and I was like, I feel like we're inside of like a after school special template. Like, it felt like they kind of copy pasted.
But imagine if it was really good.
Right.
Like, if an AI could make it really good, and it wasn't like, because that was made by humans and it was like bland and formulaic.
Well, it felt like they might have roughed the story out using AI first and then kind of gone in and like modified.
I mean, there's plenty of bland formulaic.
Yeah, no, that's been going on for a long time.
Entertainment out there, right? Yeah. And we kind of avoid it, and it's made by humans today.
Yeah.
But let's say, like, let's pick something genuinely, exceptional and go, what if AI could just create that? It's sort of like the difference between fast food and like chef prepared food in a way. Like, we do eat In-N-Out Burger and McDonald's sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. Like Taco Bell once in a while, whatever. Like,
pretty good.
I do stop at those places, and I don't mind it sometimes. So sometimes it hits, right?
Yeah,
sometimes
you're on the road and you're tired.
It's salty and it's fatty.
Late
and it's
lunch. It's 3:30.
It knows how to get you.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Like, it's tasty sometimes. That chicken sandwich from Popeyes with the pickle on it or whatever, right? Like, and it's not chef prepared. It's following just a template. It is in a way, though. I don't know. Like, and now I'm debunking my own argument, because if you go to one McDonald's, sometimes it's just better than a different McDonald's.
No, it's interesting.
I think the people make a difference.
I think they do. Yeah, they care.
Even that aside, like, I don't know. I guess there's a place for just like mass-produced, AI-produced Bourne movies.
Well,
it's like fast food. I don't feel like I wouldn't want everything to just be that, though. So
I do remember back in the 90s, there was this guy. He was a professor of art at the U of A. I'm trying to remember his name. He started Andy. He started the drawing studio. Do you remember the drawing studio that was on 4th Avenue? You could go in and do life.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Andy, it's right on the tip of my tongue. He was part of the Rancho Linda Vista crowd that had that ranch up there.
I can't remember his name, but yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, so he gave us a lecture once. We went to his studio for like, we had this art group that would tour around and do lunches, and different artists would lecture. And he said, this was back in like the mid 90s, like 97 or something.
Yeah.
And he said it was a time when it was getting easier and easier to like print CMYK, like 4-color process, like that used to be reserved for like really high-end magazines. And like then you could sort of just send something in and have it printed and make 1,000 copies. Like, so it was like, he said, the more that we sort of perfect the ability to reproduce something perfectly and make it really cheap, the more people will value an actual artifact that's like a piece of a painting that is only one.
I mean, that's how I feel. And I agree with that. But then I don't know if I would generalize that to people.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Okay, sure.
Like,
but
because I definitely relate to that.
But
I don't know if the world is like that.
Like when you look at the one behind you, these paintings, the texture, the printed one never has texture. It's just flat, right? So
and you and I appreciate that. Like we get that, and we like that, and we like the interaction, like the correspondence you're having with the artist who created it. Like there is a creator on the other end of it that we are aware of, and we appreciate that.
Yeah, you're communicating.
When that guy said, people appreciate that, or people, the more that gets mass produced, the more people appreciate the artisanal whatever. I don't know if that's where I'm not sure. Like I don't know if like it's true of me. It's true of me.
Yeah,
but I don't know if it's true of people.
Well, here's where I was going with that, which is I'm actually when I started fooling around with filmmaking, I had a Bolex and I was shooting 16 millimeter film, and it was really expensive. Like to shoot a roll 100 feet of film with 5 minutes.
It
was like $39 to get it processed, and then you had to make a print, and then you had to edit the print and make a copy of the. It just was like, it was really expensive. And as soon as like something digital came along and I could not pay for the film, I was I was really excited. And so many people now, if you go to the American Society of Cinematographers, like the courses that they're offering are how to shoot on film. All of these people are shooting on film now, like, IMAX stuff and, Christopher Nolan's shooting on film all the time. So is, one battle after another was shot on really nasty, like CinemaScope, like super awkward to use film cameras. And I don't quite, I imagine that it's because And I imagine it's because there's something that you can't get when you are doing something digitally or using CGI.
Yeah.
And the film has this sort of magical quality.
Yeah, it makes me think of like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio movie, right? Like, there's because at the other end, the person consuming one battle after another, like how many people would notice, like, first of all, there's a very small subset of people even know that it's filmed on film, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
It has a certain look, but if it had a different look, if it had just a shitty digital look, or even a really nice digital look, like how much of the audience would even notice or care about the difference, right? Like as the artist cares because they know the subtleties and the nuances that they're trying to get to, and they have this notion that matters to the end product, right? Like it needs to, like it will produce, even if it's very subtle, it will produce some emotional thing in the viewer. It will produce some response inside the viewer, even if they don't know that that's the response they're having, or that it's coming from the film, choice.
Yep.
And I think of like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. I think we've talked about it before, but like the fact that it was stop motion and it was handcrafted puppets, and they're swapping out faces and mouths on the characters for every like 24th of a second of a word that they're saying, right?
Yeah.
And they have people that have built that have like 3D printed the all the different faces of Pinocchio and his eyes doing different things. And so they have 10 different versions of him with the letter M because he has a different mood when he's saying mouth or whatever, right? Like, and Papa, right? Like he might be saying that in all kinds of different ways. And so like they can't just have the mouth doing that. They have to have the eyes and whatever. And then they have a person that's swapping out the faces just painstakingly for every frame of the thing, and the moving arms and on these little puppets that they made and or figures that they made, and the elaborate, beautiful sets. And I have tons of pictures of the film production from the museum in Portland where they had a lot of it on display. And I was fucking blown away because I had so many different layers of thought. But one thought, I had seen the movie before I went to see the exhibit.
Yeah.
And I just assumed it was CGI.
Ah, you didn't realize
like it looks like CGI.
Yeah. Oh, interesting.
And so, like, as an untrained viewer, as an ignorant viewer, I was entertained by the movie, and I just sort of like, it was semi-forgettable. Like, I know the story of Pinocchio, and I was like, I like Guillermo del Toro's spin on it, and it's cool. And then I like, I wouldn't have watched it again. I was like, it's fine. It was a good movie. But having seen all that craftsmanship, I was like, holy fuck! Like, it was incredible. And just to think, like even as somebody who appreciates that, I didn't notice it. I didn't care as I was watching the film. Like, it never occurred to me that it might not be CGI.
Interesting, huh?
And so the idea that somebody like Guillermo del Toro would put all of that effort and craftsmanship into something when the audience is going to go, why wouldn't you just do that with, like, if you imagine Elon Musk, Elon Musk, like, knowing that about that movie would be like, why? Like, that's so dumb. You know what I mean? Like, the tech bro guys would just be like, that's so dumb. Like, why would, if you're going to produce something that just looks like it's made by a computer, why? And you could do it with a computer at 1,000th of the cost. Like, why wouldn't you just do that? Like, why would you put all that craftsmanship into it? I don't have that reaction. Knowing all that craftsmanship, I immediately went back and watched the movie again because I was like, now I need to watch it. I need to really pay attention. And I had a different level of appreciation for it. Does that matter? Like, does that craftsmanship matter or not? I don't know. Like, I sort of don't actually know whether all that craftsmanship mattered. It mattered to me knowing about it.
After the fact, though. After
the fact. So it raised all kinds of weird questions in my head about, like, because I was also aware of, like, I just remember thinking, like, those conversations, those roommate conversations with the engineers that I had roommates, and just thinking, like, they would have the same reaction. Like, why would you do that? Like, why wouldn't you just do it on a computer? Like,
yeah, totally.
Like, this sort of, like, the STEM approach to everything is just efficiency and,
yeah.
What do you think metrics about and getting to the end product and being, return on investment and all those different things? Like, it's all out the window.
What do you think of this? Like, so I remember when my kids were in high school. So let's say 12 years ago, my daughter was 17, let's say, oldest daughter. I remember that she had a climbing coach, and he was like a self-proclaimed hipster. Remember the hipsters? Okay. Like, he wore those jeans that were called raw denim that you never wash. Remember, those jeans? Like, I do. And they always wore this special kind of boots.
I had some of those from Levi's that I would wash them because I'm like, that's weird not to wash your jeans.
It seems like the sweat would build up.
In fact, I washed them probably 50 times before I ever saw that the label said, like, never wash. I was like, whoops.
I don't quite, my jeans get all weirdly, like, kind of sticky when there's, like, sweat in them and stuff. I don't get it. But anyway, so he was a self-proclaimed hipster.
Like, I sat on the bus with people that never wash their jeans, and I don't like what it smells like. So I'm not going to be that guy.
And I remember being intrigued because he was like, I hadn't heard of this new movement, as he was a kind of younger guy. And he, other than being a climbing coach, he would make wooden bowls and sell them at, like, craft fairs, like for Christmas and stuff. I bought a few for my mom. They're really pretty. Okay. But he would turn them on a lathe. What is that called? And then one time he had this, he, like, slaughtered a goat in his backyard and cooked it for 3 days in, like, a pit, like a a luau kind of thing,
Yeah.
And I just remember being kind of intrigued by this whole sort of, it almost felt like the Back to the Land Luddites, where you're celebrating slow things that take
just that word artisanal kind of came back during that, from all those hippies. Like, they were the ones that were like, oh, we do. And Portlandia does such a great job of lampooning it too. Like, I think it was the first episode of Portlandia, or one of the first episodes, had the guy who made artisanal light bulbs.
Oh my God.
And they were just like these handcrafted light bulbs.
Oh shit!
It was so perfect.
It's
Fred
it's
Armisen's
totally,
a genius. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's the kind of thing you're talking about, right? Like
yeah, yeah,
that's
yeah.
taking it to like a funny, logical, you know, satire. But yeah, I mean, I totally appreciated that in the amongst those new hipsters with their artisanal coffee and like, you know, that's where new coffee inventions suddenly came into existence, like the clover, right? Like it was like,
Mhm.
oh, we want to figure out how to make coffee even better, pour
Yeah,
over, right?
right.
Like
Yeah, totally.
all that stuff came from the hipsters. It's
It's
like, oh,
true.
we make, you know, just whatever artisanal thing that,
So
you know,
I am kind of
Williamsburg was all artisanal.
I'm actually basically like the theme of the topic is like the eighth graders were giving this talk, and I imagined them going out into the world,
Yeah.
or you know, going into high school and then college and dealing with this, you know, pulsation between like the rise of AI and then sort of a reactionary human thing where we grab onto things that are purely human and kind of ugly and messy and take a long time to do, but we appreciate that. So we find this balance. And I'm really actually curious. I mean, there's parts of me that are scared of the future, you know, certainly of like any kind of, when I follow or read or listen to Marxists talking about, you know, how would, you know, like the idea that if you put a lot of people out of work, if you're like the oligarchs put a lot of people out of work, you're putting your demand center, your market.
Not only do they have no employees anymore, which is their sort of utopia, but they have no customers anymore.
Right. And that's an awkward, ugly place to arrive at because there could be like, you know, pitchforks and torches and, you know, it could be an ugly
But that's why they have their bunkers in New Zealand.
Right.
And their questions like, you know, once the pilot drops me off at my bunker in New Zealand, do I have to kill the pilot? Like they literally ask those kinds of questions.
Do you remember? With
anyway? Sorry, I'm interrupting you.
We have to because you said that we have to go back to the back before Kristi Noem was fired.
Yeah.
She and her boyfriend Corey Lewandowski had flown to somewhere like Costa Rica on a U.S. Coast Guard flight. And the Coast Guard pilot had sort of forgotten to bring some sex toy off the plane. Like it was like they pretended it was a bag.
It was a coat or something. Or
but it turned out it was like a sex toy or something.
Of course, yeah.
So he forgot to bring the bag of sex toys or handcuffs or something. And so Corey Lewandowski fired him. He was like, "Fuck you, you're fired."
Right.
And then they were like,
that
"Okay, let's fly back." And they were like, "Well, there's no pilot," so they had to rehire him to fly them back.
And then they were like, "Well, you didn't have the legal authority to fire me anyway, so you know, like I guess I'm not fired."
Totally. But I get your. I mean, it's much darker to say like, "Do we kill the pilot after he drops us off at our bunker?" You know, like
yeah.
I mean, Pablo Escobar did that over and over again. He would have guys dig a hole up in the hills, and then he'd put a shipping container of cash, and then he'd kill them all and throw them inside, and then he'd kill all the people who killed them. I always just think
whenever I see in a movie like like the that sort of scene, you know, where you're kind of like when you know that the guys are going to die, or like I imagine being one of the guys in that situation that's just like I'm not like I just sort of feel like I'd be like, you're going to kill me anyway. Like I'm not digging a hole for you, right? You know, like. You know what I mean? Like, there's like hostage situations in movies or like War Prisoner where it's just like they make the prisoner do something and then you like dig their own grave.
Yeah,
that's the perfect one. It's like, I'm not going to dig my own grave. Like you're going to kill me anyway. Like, why would I do the extra work?
Well, okay, this is a little bit
you can dig the fucking grave, man.
PG-13, but a lot of times I think the implied thing is I'll make it really quick and shoot you in the head. Or I'll shoot you 5 times in the leg and let you bleed out.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
If that's the choice, Or I'll shoot these people in front of you first, and you know you'll have the agony of watching that.
But to your point, I actually with the Pablo Escobar thing, like I feel like the first you only can really do it once because the first time you do it. Right. There's like rumors because no one came back from digging the hole, and you're like, that's weird. Right. And the next time they're like, hey, do you want to go dig a hole? You'd be like, my back is really hurting. Like I just, I don't know, I can't do it. You know what I mean? Like you just can't really do it twice. You know, it seems like a dumb chess move in terms of
Anyway, sorry, but you were saying like I feel like you didn't finish your thought about like the 8th graders and
the
world they're graduating into or whatever.
Well, so what was interesting was, one of the kids made a dress. Like they literally made a dress, and they went
sewed
to
it. Yeah, yeah.
They went to FIT like for like a school trip, and then they interviewed designers about how the industry works. And she couldn't find any. There's no more clothing. There's no more cloth stores, like sewing stores in Tucson. They've all closed.
I know, like Joanne Fabrics here, the whole chain closed, right?
The whole chain closed, and we had like 2 or 3 mom and pop ones that closed. So she went around and she said, eventually, we just bought some like cheap T-shirts and we de-seamed them. Like we took them apart and sort of harvested the cloth from T-shirts to make this thing. It was interesting. But anyway, another kid, wanted to be a portrait photographer, and that actually occurred to me. I was like, portrait photography is not. AI can't replace a portrait photographer. It's true, like because you can't. You could ask it to make a portrait of yourself, but it's. I think you need someone to actually.
Well, that's the question, right? Like that's your core question. Is there an audience or a demand? Is there a consumer? Is there sort of an innate consumer demand or preference for human created stuff? Right.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of what you're ultimately asking, or you're sort of like. I don't know if you're asking or if you're kind of hypothesizing that there is.
I'm hypothesizing that we will discover what I'm predicting will be an unexpected level of, as you say, like
kind of like the hipsters. Like there's
the stop motion.
This
like we'll
idea
discover
that like a movement of people that are like, we like artisanal, small. Yeah, I think that
shooting on film in Hollywood, like that's so awkward and costly, but it's becoming a fad,
I don't know if I would hypothesize that. I hope that there is, and I wish that there would be. I'm hopeful that there might be. It's the same exact question that the Luddites were pushing, right? Like the story of the Luddites was that story.
Yeah.
They were making cloth and
weren't they reacting to mechanized
to
looms?
The looms, to the automated looms, the machine looms, right? Like they used hand looms, and they rightly were pointing out that the hand looms made cheaper, shittier product. It was just like, it's not as good as what we make, and it will never be as good. And it was true, but nobody cared. You know what I mean? Or not nobody cared, but not enough people cared. Like. So I do wonder, like, I feel like the hipster thing, there is a legacy, and that's the wrong word, but like stuff that they did has persisted. Like they created a layer to what is out there that you can buy in cities anyway.
Yeah.
Like you can go out today in Tucson, and I can go out today in San Francisco, and I can buy coffee or food products or soap or whatever still today that is what it is because of those hipsters deciding that, like, hey, there's a market for there's a market for like really finely crafted, like lovingly crafted stuff. And there is. Is there a mass market? I don't know. I sort of feel hopeful that there is. There definitely is a market for it. People appreciate it. There is a subset of people who appreciate that, and who have the resources to pay a little more for it and stuff like that. And they're also like, I was thinking about. Sorry, you were going to say something.
I was going to say. So I'm not an expert, and I don't know anything about the Met Gala, but you know how like a whole army of designers are employed to create like a unique thing that a star or a celebrity can wear to the Met Gala.
Yeah.
But none of us could afford like, Vera Wang making us a dress to wear to a party. Like that's just not going to, maybe, Jeff Bezos can, but
yeah.
Is that what you mean? Like there's going to be different tiers of like unique art.
Well, I mean, it's just
things.
Like, mass-produced stuff is cheaper, right? Like economies of scale just make stuff cheaper, right?
Yeah.
It's lower quality and it's less expensive. So like there's one reason people eat at McDonald's a lot is because it's cheap, right? So
my understanding of how, for instance, that Vera Wang and those kind of, unique one-off, I built you this dress for this event, right?
That's the extreme version, yeah.
A place like Target will hire Vera Wang and
there's
say,
bespoke, and then there's artisanal, and then there's mass-produced, yeah.
And I pictured this flow where Vera Wang gets hired by Target to design their fall collection.
Right.
And the things that she did and experimented with, some of them make it into the designs that are then mass-produced in Bangladesh and sold for really cheap in Target, right? Like that's sort of how that works, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Huh.
And I think Vera Wang specifically did that with Target, right?
Yeah, there were a couple of designers, and they make a big deal out of it. They're like, we've hired so-and-so Tommy Hilfiger to design this fall set for the school.
Yeah.
And he always references like, Ralph Saint Laurent.
But but you also know that you can go and get maybe not clothing or whatever right now, but you can go to the mom and pop shop for whatever in Tucson on 4th Avenue and get something that's been small factory made, right? Like whatever, like a messenger bag. Like you can get, like in San Francisco, there's 5 different local companies that make bike messenger bags, right? They got big at one point, right? Like Timbuktu and stuff.
There's a woman in Tucson that makes really cool bags out of old billboards because they have that really thick vinyl that's like indestructible.
Awesome.
It's designed to be out in the sun. And so she just cuts them up and then makes them into bags.
Love that stuff, right?
So cool.
And so there is and beer, and there's other things like that. There's a thriving small batch kind of small creator. It's not exactly handcrafted because it's not like on the scale of an art fair where it's like that guy is hand lathing every bowl. It's not like that level of handcrafted.
Right.
But it's not mass produced on the global scale either, right? Like there's a really good middle tier, and I think the hipsters helped establish that or reestablish that. And I think I don't know. This is me going macro again. But I was thinking about like the whole anti-capitalist argument where people there's the people who would say capitalism is the problem. Like, I don't know how many of those people would have a problem with like village capitalism. You know what I mean? Like in a town, if you had no global capitalism and you literally just had factories in the town and making stuff for the town and the surrounding towns, right? Like if you only had local capitalism, would people have a problem with it? Like, it strikes me that the problem is that you're mowing down rainforests and to create a rubber plantation so that you can have motorcycle tires or whatever, right? Like in some other country, like that's the kind of capitalism that is totally toxic and dysfunctional and doesn't care about anybody, right? Like if the people who own the company don't live in your town, they don't give a shit about whether they're close your factory or not. But if the people who own that factory live in your town, they're going to have a different kind of vested interest in the community, right? So like both of those are capitalism.
I heard
so like I do think there is a movement away. Right now we're in a moment. It does feel like we're in a moment where like more and more people are rejecting the sort of oligarchic capitalism that we have now. And I do feel like that could feed into your hypothesis and my hope that there is a market for human created stuff, and that's what people will ultimately want. And there will be a rejection of, I think the rejection of AI mass produced bullshit and slop is similar. It's really part of the same wave of rejection as rejecting global capitalism, global oligarchic capitalism. I think those are tied together. And I think there is a movement away from that global oligarchic capitalism, and that same sentiment will apply to AI produced, mass produced stuff.
One thing like when I'm doom scrolling looking for the latest news about, let's say, the war, and Facebook feeds me these AI created history lessons. Like they clearly just go back.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they have these, and they're written in a template. There's a fucking template, like line by line, they're the same.
And is it Facebook producing them, or is it some
I actually
creator on, that's posting to Facebook?
It could be a creator, but I've also read that Mark Zuckerberg has swung the like after the metaverse kind of flared out, he sent a lot of developers to kind of build content creation machines that would just generate content and based on like my, all my profile, like the books that I've liked, the things that he would build me these history lessons. Like maybe other person, it would be about fashion or something. I don't know. But
interesting.
Anyway, so, part of me is, at first I felt sucked in and manipulated, like my dopamine cycle was being sort of, like I felt like a puppet, right?
Yeah.
And then I started realizing I'd get like one paragraph in and I'd be like, ugh. And I would just bounce because it was the same template and the same
structure. There is something about that AI writing that is, at least currently as it is, that's just like, it's just not good.
It's not good. And there's something.
Like somebody talked about how, the way the architecture of LLMs works, it is naturally average. Like it's averaged out all of human, like the way humans talk, it's producing an average of the way
mediocrity
conversation. Yeah. Which that sort of resonated with me. Like, oh yeah, I can see that. Cause there's also different ways that AI is like really impressive and also really dumb, like both simultaneously. That's the thing that I keep pointing to that's like unique about this technology is that like, I can't remember a technology that is so impressive and simultaneously so fucking stupid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the dumb stuff have you seen that guy on TikTok who, he's gotten some virality now, and Sam Altman even had to comment on one of his videos because like he keeps doing these tests of his AI. Like
I haven't seen it. No,
the one that went viral that Sam Altman responded to was he's talking to ChatGPT, like voice chat, and he's like, all right, I'm gonna run. Can you time me while I run a mile? Like, are you able to do that? And it's like, absolutely, I can do that. I can just tell me when you start. And he's like, okay, go. All right, I'm back. How long was that? And then like, that's how I'm reproducing exactly what he did. And then the AI is like, that was 7 minutes and 43 seconds. That's a pretty good mile. And he's like, are you sure? Because it felt shorter than that. He's like, I know. Sometimes it feels, sometimes when you're in the middle of exercise, it can feel like it's really gaslighting him, like hardcore.
Yeah. Like, and
the one I saw today that the same guy did was like,
he knows. Is it not aware that at this point, like in his example, the AI isn't aware that
ass off,
but he's teasing it by
he's trying to get it to admit, like all these tests are basically it failing something, and then he's just trying to get it to admit that it can't do something. Then he's following up like, so are you sure you're able to time me? Like, is that something you can do? And it's like, yeah, absolutely. That's one of my core skills. I can. And then, Sam Altman's response was like, oh yeah, well our current model can't do a timer. Well, fine. But then it shouldn't claim that it can, right? Like that's the problem, right? And so the other one I saw today, he's done a whole bunch of these tests and they're really cringy and really funny at the same time.
That's great.
But the one I saw today was...
They're Turing tests in some ways, right? They're
kind of, yeah. He asked the AI, he has it look at him, through the camera, and he's like, all right, I have this really funny, ugly face filter to make my face really ugly. And he has no filter on. It's just his face. He's like, what do you think of it? And it's like, oh yeah, like your forehead is really stretched out, and it's making these comments, and he's like, and then the guy's like, oh, actually, I forgot to turn it on. That was just my normal face. And it was like, and then it's saying stuff like, oh, maybe it was just the lighting that sometimes that can make things look funny.
It's really like a obsequious liar.
Really gaslighting, like really lying, and it's just like disturbing how effortlessly and fluently and quickly it just pivots to lying.
Yeah.
On all these tests, it's very weird. But anyway,
what motivates the AI to lie? Like what's the benefit it gets from lying?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think the critics of these AI, these LLMs, the thing that they keep pointing to is that their core purpose, their core function is to keep us happy, is to tell us what we want to hear.
Keep using it and paying for it, right?
Yeah. And so,
Huh.
and there's not enough people that sort of understand that. And so like people are getting swept up in these AI psychosis where like they think they've discovered the algorithm for pi or something because their AI told them that they're a genius. And then, there's more and more of these stories of people going off on like Twitter or, like, and people who are like CEOs and shit that like should know better.
Could you, for instance, configure one? I don't really play with them very much anymore at all, but could you configure one to be more like C-3PO? Like just to not say anything of judgment, like not to fluff up your ego. But
I think within limits. Yeah. Because like I use Claude quite a bit, and I have like in the settings, you have parameters you can set. And I basically said, be as straightforward as you can, like minimize the niceties. So it doesn't talk to me all polite and shit because I hate that.
Yeah. Right.
Like it just gives me this straightforward answer. And then I also in the settings said things to it like, I wrote things like, I am a naturally skeptical person. Like I want evidence to be cited when you tell me things, like I need the citations and the sources and, like, and so I've asked it to do all that, and it does that to as much as it can. However, like that doesn't change its core. Like if its core function is to just sort of like be a yes man,
right?
Then I can't help what it might have some cosmetic differences what I've told it to do, but ultimately it's still probably trying to fucking gaslight me on some level. But I don't use it to. I use it for research. Like I'll like the stuff I used to use Google for. I'll ask it to summarize something for me. So I'll be like, can you just summarize for me the relationship between the Reformation and the Christian Reformation and the Enlightenment, and like what, like how are those related to each other, and what was like the historical roots of each one, and then it'll spit out some answer to that question because I'm curious about that for some reason, right? But and I'll have the citations, and then I'll say, can you tell me a little bit more about what Rousseau said about XYZ, right? And so then it'll summarize that. So that's how I've been using AI quite a bit. I get it to summarize sort of researchy questions for me. And I interview it, or I follow up. I ask it follow-up questions. And I always am aware that it might be fucking up. Like it might be telling me things that are actually not accurate. And so I'm a little bit nervous about that sometimes.
Interesting.
So depends how high the stakes are. Like if it gets a little bit wrong about the Enlightenment and the Reformation, like I'm not going to go out and repeat all the things that it said and make those claims on my, armchair pundit or something. And as if I wrote it,
right.
I'm going to check all that first just to make sure, like, did Rousseau really say that? Whatever.
Yeah. Huh.
Because I'm aware that it can just make shit up.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, but we were getting on like just the fact that it's like so impressive and so bad at the same time.
I've been tempted to, like, as a installation artist, I've been tempted to do, like, I recently painted for my brother-in-law. I painted a painting with my wife, and I had never done that before. Like, I was teaching her the sort of technique, which was just which order of what kind of paints you're using and what.
Have you seen these dates where people paint each other?
No, paint like on each other, like on their skin.
It's like no, like they sit across from each other and they each do a portrait of the other, and then they reveal it at the end of their date.
No, I haven't seen that. That's kind of
some of those are hilarious. Anyway, I think that's a great premise for a date.
It sure is, but I mean, it certainly, like, people who, like, you can are incredible really draftsmen, and it could be very hard to like if you kind of make
it could go really bad.
Yeah.
But that anyway, sorry. Keep
anyway,
going.
so but I've had this. So we painted it together, and I look at it and I think we ended up with something really, really sweet. And it actually helped me, having to explain what I was doing. It helped me to understand my process much better.
Interesting.
And I realized that when I'm doing an abstract painting for someone or about someone, they're like psychological portraits using color and texture and, dynamic range and, that kind of thing and composition. and that there are sort of, it's a story that I'm trying to depict across usually a timeline left to right of their life. And it's so it like sometimes like it looks like if you look behind you, there's like a line going through the middle that's could be like a river, it could be like a very abstract, landscape, or it could be literally a timeline, and things are going on across there. So, so it was really helpful to do the collaboration. But I imagined, what if I did it? Like, what if I did an installation with a Claude bot that I sort of tried to configure to where we were like.
There are some artists using AI in some interesting ways as a tool in their art.
Yeah, I haven't explored it. If maybe afterwards you can give
I'll
me some links.
I just heard in that Ted Chiang article that I linked to a couple times that we've referenced on a few previous podcasts, he mentions somebody in that article that's doing interesting things with AI just in the process of their art. And then Fred Armisen, who I talked about earlier this episode, he was on a podcast recently, and he was talking about how he hasn't touched AI yet, but he was mentioning some artist that he uses that guy's work sometimes, and he knows that guy is doing some interesting things with AI in his process. So I'm curious about that. So yeah, I'll find some and I'll put them in the.
I almost want to like. This is kind of a strange sort of like an enfolding thing. I almost want to like do a show together with the AI.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, I kind of want to make like a mini documentary where someone interviews both of us. And I get to ask questions like, so as an artist, like when you're deciding to do something and you're communicating with an audience, like you care that it works or doesn't work, or your intention, like what's your intention? And I want to ask the AI, like, what's your motivation other than that you were told to do it? Like what?
That's interesting.
It's kind of an interesting.
You know what it makes me think of though? Like, do you know Iain McGilchrist and his work on left brain, right brain stuff?
No.
So there's a neuro, like I forget what his actual like discipline is, but anyway, a writer thinker named Iain McGilchrist. He wrote a book called The Master and the Emissary about the two sides of your brain, and he uses.
Oh, cool.
And then he has a new one called a bigger, huge, like 2,000-page volume that's about the left and right hemispheres of your brain and how they're different. And it's like slightly different spin on kind of old science about left and right hemisphere. But one of the things, like his way of sort of like differentiating them is just like how your right hemisphere attends to the world versus how your left hemisphere attends to the world. That's kind of the phrase he uses. And that's really where the difference lies. But he talks about, so what you're talking about with AI, like asking it questions, and what I was just talking about, like asking it questions and it's making up answers like to that guy about like, oh, your strep forehead, oh, maybe it's just the lighting, right? It made me think of, and I just thought of this right now, but in those left hemisphere, right hemisphere things, some of the interesting experiments that have been done with people when they disable one hemisphere or the other, and like in The Man Who Left His, the Oliver Sacks kind of stories, some of those. There's some stories, and I can't think of really specific ones, but there's some stories where, for example, like somebody isn't aware of what one of their hands is doing, right? And so their hand is just sitting there, and like the interviewer will ask, "Why did you pick up that knife?" And they didn't pick up a knife, but they know that the way that this person's brain is, it doesn't know, it's not aware of its left side or whatever, right? The person's not aware of what their left hand is doing, and the person will just make up an answer like, "Oh, I picked it up because I was about to cut that piece of paper," or whatever, or I just didn't like how it was pointing, and they'll just really instantly like. And so what Iain McGilchrist has shown through these experiments is that your left brain is really, really talented at making up an answer really quickly, because it and it can just lie like instantaneously to cover its ass, kind of like
yeah.
And so, in a way, that's kind of what the AI is feels like. It's a very left brain thing. Like I never thought of that before. Wow. But and I feel like if you ask the AI questions about its art, it would just make up something in that moment to satisfy your question. But it wouldn't come from anything. It would literally just be just almost an arbitrary synthesis of thoughts just to satisfy the question. And not to get like too macro again, but it did make me think also about, just now as I was saying that, it makes me think about the difference between STEM and humanities. And there's something very left brain about STEM. And it's about achieving an end goal and and so I feel like all the people who built all these AIs, all those tech guys, they're all very STEM guys, right? They're all really about coding and programming in STEM. And remember how like it was all about like we're falling behind the world in STEM, and like all these schools started focusing on STEM and creating coders, and at the expense of art and humanities and literature, and all these other programs started to get debudgeted and defunded and downsized in schools across the country. And I've said this before, and I've heard lots of people talk about just like there's something really stunted about these guys, like the Mark Zuckerbergs and the Mark Andreessens and the Mark Benioffs. Too many of them are named Mark. And there's something really stunted about Elon Musk. Just there's something that strikes me as so like not fully formed about them. Like when they talk about stuff, they just seem weirdly stunted, deficient in some way. Like they don't talk about they're not human fully. Like they're not the kind of people that you can ever imagine them talking about like a meal they enjoyed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like a person they loved. Like it's really hard to imagine them talking about like something like that. They're really good at talking about efficiency and goals and ROI and, but yeah, so they're also very left brain guys. So in general, they're left brain people building a left brain technology that does left brain things. Anyway,
will you put that book in the show notes? Because I really want to check that out. That sounds
it's the shorter one, The Master and the Emissary, is a really good one. I started reading the longer one, but it's long. But yeah, it's a really good book. I'll put it in the show notes.
It reminds me of like I certainly had this period when I was kind of coming out of my divorce and struggling with grief and kind of personal identity growth. And I remember feeling like I shared with my therapist, I had like two aspects of my personality. I had this sort of Navy SEAL survivalist guy who didn't want to waste any time and just get right back to it. And then this like fifth grade artist who wanted to just fool around and play with shit, and have fun and enjoy life. And that they would like battle for who was in charge. They would actually sort of, if things weren't going well, whoever was in charge would turn to the other one and be like, your thing fucked up. It's my turn now. Like, so it's like this back and forth. And like, see where we got.
No, I love that, because like what that shows is that you understand the value, that both of those things have a value, right? Like you're not getting stuck too much in one or the other. There is a natural tension between them.
Yeah. And then later on, like recently this summer, two of my friends from high school and college are studying and or interning, or I guess working in this new psychology called family systems or internal family systems. Which is these different
that's very trendy like, right now.
Yeah, and like what's the film that's about that Pixar film? There's a Disney film,
Inside Out.
Inside Out, yeah, which does it so well, like illustrates that sort of different impulses that we have. Yeah, but it's funny that you mentioned, because if you were to take that Inside Out template, the complexity of human psychology, it almost sounds like the AI that's lying to you about your face, is one of many aspects of human psychology, and not like that diversity. There's not like the diversity of.
It's not a fundamentally new thing. It's like it's a skewed version of human function.
Yeah, and one thin aspect of like sample of the pie. Like it's one piece of the pie rather than like.
But it's like such an it's like it's isolating that one weird idiosyncrasy in humanity and making it like a massive world-changing product.
Right. And I wonder if will evolve and become much more nuanced, more like a human.
I think so. I mean, there's this new. New/old technique for architecture for AI, or approach to AI. It's called we talked last time about this, like the AI problem of identifying dogs versus cats, right? Like showing it a bunch of pictures and then testing like different approaches. This was a test they used to do. Like they would test different approaches to AI and say, what was the failure rate or the success rate of this AI model on this pile of pictures? Like how many did it get right? And the two fundamental approaches to AI were neurosymbolic, which was basically putting in an algorithm, like a bunch of parameters,
if-then statements, rules. Yeah.
If-then statements. Like you can think of it in simply as a whole bunch of nested in if-then statements and layers of if-then statements, conditions.
Yep.
And the other way is just just brute force. Like basically, we're going to put a whole bunch of compute power against, and we're going to have this very simple algorithm, like look at these pictures, and we're going to tell you whether you got it right or wrong. And you're going to eventually you're going to learn AI which ones are dogs and which ones are cats.
Oh,
and so the second camp was like, that's basically more how humans learn. And so it's no wonder that one did it better.
Huh.
It did it better to a point. But then what they found was that like at a massive scale, it couldn't generalize it as well as actually doing. So now that this new Claude or this new Anthropic, what do they call it? I forget what their new model's called. They have this new Mythos or something. I think it's called Mythos. Anyway, they have this new thing that's getting all this hype, and it's like, oh, it's terrifying people, like how good it is or like how powerful it might become or whatever. But apparently that Anthropic has now turned back to this neurosymbolic approach, and they're making this hybrid of like the neurosymbolic plus the LLM hybrid, and they're finding that is, and so that's apparently like this new way where it gets things right. One of the tests, like Apple put out a white paper that got a lot of attention. You know that kid's toy where you stack the rings?
Yeah,
like you have the colored rings, and you put the biggest ones on the bottom, and you right. So any little kid can do that with 6 or 7 or 8 rings, right? But what this Apple white paper found, testing all these different AIs, was that they all failed miserably past like 4 rings.
Huh.
Like none of them could reliably do it. They all had like a 5% success rate once you got past like 4 or 5 rings. And so they were basically like, these AIs are really good at stuff, but they can't reason in these certain ways. So that was one of the tests. There were other tests in that white paper, that Apple white paper. But apparently this new approach, this neurosymbolic plus the hybrid, the one that Anthropic is doing, like does way, way, way better on the tests that Apple had laid out in that white paper.
Interesting. Oh.
That's kind of interesting. Yeah. So I think it will get better. And actually the good news too, I guess in one sense, is that it's way, way, way less compute intensive, energy intensive.
Yeah.
So they can produce better results with much less resources.
That's great. That's
so,
really,
so it shows some interesting promise for things getting better in that one way. Now, AI getting really better, really faster with less resources also has some frightening possibilities too, but we'll just put those aside for now.
What's it called when, let's say like the king in medieval times, the king dies, his son is 2 years old, and there's that person that kind of is the provost, or they
right. I don't know what it's called, but I know. Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about? That sort of like superintendent.
It's like it's like the hand of the king is there to kind of like guide the young
until he's old enough.
Until he's old enough to be,
but he's never going to be like inherit the line himself. Like he's not. I sort of like had this fantasy. I think it was might have been back in Trump's first term. That and maybe this idea, I forget why, but I had this fantasy that the election was so riddled with errors that we just sort of decided no one won. Yeah, and we put like IBM's Watson in charge of the country, like, and gave it a certain set of parameters, like run the country as best you can to make everyone healthy and happy and affluent, and then I thought, well, because at that point Watson was like meant to be this crazy great doctor, and it would beat someone at chess, and weirdly, like Watson kind of got left in the dust. It's like certain AIs like Siri and Watson and Alexa they kind of just boom, they're like way
that's interesting. They're like the WebEx. And the go-to meeting of AI,
or even like the MySpace.
They were the leaders
like
at
the
one
MySpace
point.
Of social media.
The Friendster.
What was that? Was the Foursquare?
I heard Fred Armisen talking about Friendster when he was talking about AI on that same podcast, and he was talking about how he never uses AI. He's like, I just don't really, I'm not an early adopter. Like, and then the other guy was like, yeah, you're still on Friendster, right? He's like, yeah. And where is everybody? I love Fred Armisen. He's one of my favorite people. He's just like a beautiful soul.
Two things that reminds me of. First of all, Foursquare. There was a restaurant in Tucson called the Beeline, and I liked to work there on my laptop. And I became the mayor of the Beeline. And then this other guy who's a lawyer up the street from me, a friend of ours, he would beat me by having more meals there than me.
Yeah.
And I had done a trade with the owner.
We think we're gaming the system, but the systems are gaming us. Anyway, Go ahead.
I was eating. I had done a trade, so I could literally have breakfast, lunch, and dinner there. It was kind of like how many
check-ins can you do in that situation? Like if you do 3 check-ins if you're going in and out of the place.
Yeah, because I would leave and go home and get So anyway, so then both of us we would toss it back and forth. Who was the mayor of the Beeline until there was this woman. She was like a Turkish PhD student.
Yeah.
And she came and she decided to write her thesis at the Beeline. And we could never get it. We never got it back up on the thing. We were dethroned by this woman. And we were just like, we're not going to try. It's too much work, she's living here. She's got her sleeping bag. It might've been hours that you were there.
Yeah.
It might not have been check-ins.
That's funny.
Because she I
have a funny Foursquare story. I was with a group of dudes here, and one of them was moving to the East Coast, and so we were out drinking beers or something, and somebody in our group was like, just sort of half jokingly was like, "Have you ever been to a strip club?" One of the it was one of the San Francisco iconic ones. He was like, "Have you ever been to X?" I don't even know the name of it, and the guy was like, "No," And so it's like somebody in the group was like, "Oh, well, we're taking you there now. Like, since you're moving, we got to take you there." And so, none of us, strip club. I don't get strip clubs. They make me super uncomfortable. The whole thing, everything about it. Yeah. I think a lot of people feel that way, but we decided to go to this place. And one of the people in our group, his wife is very, very religious. Anyway, she would have just been completely just deeply offended that her husband was going to this place. And so jokingly, as we're about to walk into it, I go, "Oh, wait, hold on. I got to check us in on Foursquare." and he just turned 20 shades of just pale white. And I was like, "Dude, I'm kidding." Because he just imagined his wife finding out. To my wife's credit, if she knows that I don't like that kind of place. So her questions to me, knowing that if I came home from a place like that and she knew I was there, she would ask me, or she would say, "I hope you didn't spend too much money." That would be one thing. And she would say, "Take a shower before you touch me." Right. So those would be the two things that she might say, but
that's
anyway.
funny.
You want to do quick first world problem or anything like that? I got two quick first world problems.
You go first. Do one first, and I'll
All right. So my very quick first world problem is my coffee grinder static on the plastic, and when I grind the coffee, and it's just it sticks to the little plastic tray that it grinds into, and you try to pour it out, and it just the static. Yeah, and I got this one. Because it said it was had static resistant plastic or something like that, but whatever static resistance it had is completely worn off. So I don't know if there's certain kind of cloth you can use to zap it or something, but it's just the static on my coffee grinder is killing me. So that's number one.
Does a dryer anti-static thing, would that work?
I heard somebody say that, a dryer sheet. Yeah, I should try that.
Try that. Yeah. I don't actually know how they work, to tell you the truth.
I don't either, but I did. I think Claude might have told me that. No, I don't know. But
nice.
I did hear that somewhere. I'll try that. Yeah.
Mine is simply, mine's actually not it's not this year, but every year I file my taxes using Intuit TurboTax. And my first world problem was that we got my dad a new computer.
Yeah.
And it's a laptop.
Is this where he forgets his password all the time?
Sort of, yeah. But in this case, every year he would buy TurboTax from Intuit, and he would make a new
Yeah.
Gmail account and a new Intuit account for that year.
He told me that.
And and then the emails are like ADL Tampa 5219-2020 tax this.
And then it's like written in like a spiral notebook somewhere or something like that.
Totally, or like in this case, anyway. So he needed to get the TurboTax 2022 to update one of his clients. He's still doing clients, just a handful of artisanal clients, right? Mm-hmm. So he gets me on the call. He calls into it. He's on the call for like hours. We spent hours trying to get his like external CD-ROM reader to like read the disc.
God. Yeah, and it could read, buying it on CD still instead of downloading it.
And it's Windows 11, and nobody, even my wife, like so like we were able. I finally did a test where I was able to get like my mom's, Bach music concerto to play, and then I was like, there must be something wrong with the software, because
I feel like once we're at that level of like our relationship with technology, we should just go full Ted Kaczynski and just live in a shack somewhere.
Yeah, totally. Anyway, so my dad, it's like we're an hour into this process of trying to get it. Like this was on Monday, and my dad has this woman. She has a Southern accent. She's like an Intuit upper level. It's been escalated. She can look at all of his accounts. And I said to her, I was like, well, one of the problems is every year he buys it, he makes a new account. And she goes, my God. Well, I can see he's got like 7 accounts, but like under the same, but she couldn't find the 2020 purchase thing. So he finally, partway through, like we're troubleshooting, we're trying all these different things. I'm looking things up, like digging into like the software, like, I don't know, is looking for cheat codes and stuff. He finally says, I did it. I had put a sticky note on top of the license code.
Oh no.
And wrote 2022 on another thing. And then he goes, so I lifted the sticky note and it was under there and I just entered that and now it works. And we were like, glad you solved that. like basically the solution was to lift the sticky note off the CD box and just type the right code in. That's my first problem.
I'm so frustrated for you and with you.
I actually think it's kind of fun because it's
like cute and fun
like traveling
in its
with
own
someone
weird puzzle way. Yeah, it's like
when you travel with someone who's terrible at traveling.
Yeah,
and you can feel bad for them and sort of laugh.
Yeah,
along
like when
with them.
we were on your wedding trip with your aunt.
With my exactly. There you go. Exactly.
The last really quick first world problem. Siri still can't do time, which is just mind-boggling to me. Wow. So if you say to Siri, if you dictate the message, "Hey, my ETA is 8:30," it will say and then you have it read it back to you. It'll say, "My ETA is 830." And even if you say, "I will be there at 8:30 p.m." it will still write 830 without the colon p.m. Like you give it all the obvious signals that you're talking about time. And I get why, like some weird niche problem like Siri might not be, that developers will never get around to solving some weird edge case. But like saying a time in a message,
that's pretty.
It's like such a core use case.
It's such a
and here we are in 2026, and this has been a problem. This has been something that's bothered me about Siri for at least 10 years. And it's just wild to me that if you say in your Siri message, like, "Hey, I'll be there at 8:30, I will be there at 8:30 p.m. it will still read it. If you're in your car and you say that, and it'll say, your message says, "I will be there at 8:30 p.m. Send it." And you're like, fuck you, Siri.
My wife has my wife's Hyundai, which I'm not sure if it's the Hyundai or it's her Samsung, but it'll say, your Victor, there's a text from Victor, and she reads the text, and then she said, "Would you like to respond?" And my wife always says, "No." And then she says, "Sending to Victor, no." And then she goes, "No, I don't want to respond." And it goes, "Sending to Victor, no, I don't want to respond." And you're like, what the fuck? Like, what? It just seems like that's like the most obvious mistake.
Absolutely. It doesn't get accents. Because I did that one time in the car. I was like, "Do you want to respond?" And I was like, I did like a Philadelphia. I was like, "No." And it was like, it's like, your message says now. send it or whatever.
Maybe it's my wife's accent because it
It might
always
be the accent.
it always does,
Yeah.
and it doesn't.
I think it's
seems
probably
to me
the
like-
accent.
Yeah, that's pretty
Because
funny.
I did it it wasn't even that much of an accent, but like Siri couldn't handle it and was just like,
Interesting.
your
Wow.
message says now, send it?
So everyone in New Jersey can't use like voice prompts?
Probably not. I taught my daughter how to do, like, when she was a toddler, I had her say certain words like with the Philadelphia or New York accent. Like when I was having coffee, I taught her to say coffee.
Coffee.
It was the cutest thing. When she was like 3 years old, she's like, is that your coffee?
I was telling my nephews, we were hanging out a lot this week doing the mentorship, and we were talking about accents, and we said that their dad says, instead of bagel, says bagel.
Oh, yeah.
You know how people say
I
bagel?
think I used to say bagel. Yeah.
He also would say forward. Like instead of forward, he says
forward.
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 It's like forward.
Forward. Yeah.
Forward. And like because I was recording him to do a like a yoga class on CD.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hear, like, I would be like, I'd stop the recording and be like, you said forward again. And he goes, what do you mean? And I was like, you're not saying the R, you're saying forward. And it just doesn't sound like, I think some people might not have understood what the word was. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Step forward.
Forward.
And bagel. And it was
All
really
right,
funny.
brother. We should go.
Lots of
This has been a long one, but this is a fun one.
It was fun. Yeah. Okay. Talk to you soon.
All right, my brother.
All right, okay, bye-bye.
Satellites? A satellite represents a journey, information gathering, this journey around the Earth.